Hello and welcome back to another Barbour ABI success story, where we're celebrating the success of Barbour ABI clients and providing you with the insight and knowledge on how to make smarter decisions using industry intelligence. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Murphy, the commercial director from Hanson today. Andy, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. Thanks, Peter. Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. Can you do a much better introduction to yourself than I've just done?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm Andy Murphy. I work for Hanson UK as the commercial director. Hanson's the UK's largest producer of cement and cementitious materials, one of the largest ready-mix companies, one of the largest aggregates companies, and part of Heidelberg Materials Group, which is the world's largest aggregate business based out of Heidelberg in Germany. We employ around 3,000 people, and we have a few hundred sites around the country. And we're a large heavy building materials company.
Let's just set the scene. How long have you been using Barbour ABI?
Well, I've been using Barbour ABI for over 30 years, actually, in various guises. I've been at Hanson for 3 years exactly. In fact, 3 years today, believe it or not, 3rd of February.
Yeah.
And
Wow, look at that.
Flies by, yeah. And I think the reason that I've used Barbour and the company's used Barbour for a really long time is because of its proven value. I mean, I think it's essential to have excellent information and knowledge about who is building what at any given time. As the very basics of being a building materials sales professional, and how are you supposed to get the best result if you don't know what's going on? So knowledge is power, and that's always been our view. And essentially, Barbour are the entity that provide us with that basic information, and we get information from some other sources as well. But Barbour's absolutely at the heart of everything that we do as a sales team.
Just looking back, maybe when you first joined Hanson, or even way back 30 odd years ago, I think things have changed, communications have changed, and software and intelligence has changed. But what were the biggest challenges to generating business leads, scanning for projects way back when, or prior to using Barbour ABI?
Yeah, I mean, I think back in the day, to use that well-worn phrase, the information used to come through on packs of cards, and you'd get a big wad of them that would arrive on your doormat once a week. And even then, it was really useful information. It was just not as easy to sift through it in the way that it is today. It wasn't as easy to be really sort of laser-like in terms of what you were looking for. So you got a lot of information, and some of it wasn't relevant. I think what's so good about the latest iteration of the platform is that it is absolutely laser-like, to use that term again, and allows you to be very efficient in the way that you search for projects. And to give an example, I mean, we've got a huge focus in our business, and have had for a long time, on sustainability. And of course, if you're looking to sell products that have really strong sustainability credentials, a good way to think about that is to try and imagine that you would be easier doing your sales job talking to people who are interested in that stuff themselves. So we're able to find clients and projects and companies who are interested in sustainability, using the information that Barbour provides to us, and then using the filter opportunities to really sort of focus in. And then, of course, having found those opportunities, if we need to mine more information on the people or the projects, then we use quite heavily Barbour's internal resource via the chat function, or by phoning them up, frankly, to speak to that team of people. And I have to say, the feedback that I get from that team, feedback I get about that team from my team, and my own personal experience, is that they're really, really helpful and very quick to respond. And so I think what I would always encourage anyone who's thinking about using Barbour ABI to do is to not only use what the functionality gives you, but also use what the company gives you. And I think that understanding of what your key account manager can do, what the team of researchers can do for you, is a really good added value, but I think often somewhat underutilized resource that Barbour ABI offers. So yeah, we have a really sort of strong relationship at all levels in our company. You know, some of our sales team use the resource more than others, but that's human beings for you.
Yeah.
But we certainly encourage and train and retrain on a very regular basis the staff so that they know what's available. I think there's another point, which is that we look at the metrics that Barbour provide. They're self-access, but we look at them very regularly to check who's doing what in our team, so we know who's accessed the system, how many projects they've investigated, and I think it's one metric in terms of Salesforce effectiveness KPI. That's again, maybe everybody uses it, maybe they don't, but we certainly use it as a way of tracking activity, which is always useful in any sales team.
I think it's in doing these success stories, it's always great to hear the different ways people are using the software. But above that, it's always great to hear that there's still that human to human contact and conversations or assistance going on, because Barbour ABI will always be known as an intelligent platform. It will always be known as the data, but it's still human beings that are providing that service at the end of the day through a platform.
Yeah, very much so. And as the service is refined over the decades, that interaction between people at Barbour ABI and me and in my team has always been an interesting point, because they're very good at taking feedback around what's good about the platform, what could be improved, some ideas about search functions that could be added, and some stuff that might be in there that isn't terribly useful to us. You know, I think it's been an iterative process, and I think that's a good thing. So I think essentially Barbour are a really good supplier. You know, okay, they're supplying data, but actually they could be supplying anything. It's the way that they supply it and the human touch, which I think I've always appreciated.
Oh, brilliant. It's that old adage, isn't it? If you sell it, whatever you're selling, whatever you're promoting, whatever your product or service is, talk to your customer. They will tell you what they want, and
it
you've
certainly
just
helps. Yeah.
You're using Barbour ABI now. Why Barbour ABI as opposed to something else?
Well, look, I mean, as everybody knows, there are a couple of platforms, and maybe more now, that offer the bones of the same information. I mean, it's mostly public access information anyway. Obviously, it comes from the planning authorities and all of that. I think that there are two aspects really that I would say why Barbour ABI. The first one is that actually we found the platform to be more useful than other platforms, so it's more user friendly. Now that could change over time. I mean, somebody else could come up with a better platform. That's IT for you. But the second reason, and maybe the most important one, is that access to the personal touch. So during COVID, when everybody was locked down, we did a hell of a lot of training with Barbour, and the team were fantastic. At short notice, they came up with some super high quality training materials delivered in person, online, but in person. And we trained a couple of hundred of our internal and external people. And some of them were experts in Barbour ABI's methodology, and others had never used it. Even though they had access to it, they'd never used it. And joining the company, as I say, 3 years ago, I was very keen that we used all of the tools in our bag and not just some of them. So we've tried to get the benchmark level of prospecting, and that basic thing about, you know, if I'm a salesperson and I'm on a territory, I want to know who's building what. And, you know, how do I find that out? The easiest way of finding it out is to use Barbour ABI. And then if you add to that the fact that you get really good quality training, and that's free at the point of delivery, you know, you don't pay any extra for that. That's all in your license fee. Again, I think a lot of companies just don't use it. They don't ask, and so to some extent they don't get. But we found that whenever we've put our hand up and said, actually, could you help us with that? And whether that's on an issue like training, or whether it's on an issue like particular research on a specific project or a set of people, the response has been really, really instantaneous and positive. So why Barbour ABI? I would say, why not?
Just moving on, you touched upon something before about how you use the actual platform, but can you take us through your strategy there and how you actually utilize it without giving any particular secrets away?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got several businesses within Hanson. We have a cement and regen business, which is mostly fixed outlet business. We have a concrete business, which has got nearly 200 concrete plants and thousands of customers, and on a weekly basis, hundreds or sometimes even thousands of requests for quotation. An asphalt business, which is very similar, and then a quarrying business, which is actually a bit like the cement business in that it's mostly fixed outlets. And each of those business lines do things slightly differently because the way that their transactions occur is different. But if I focused my answer on the concrete element of it, I mean, we're interested in people who are building certain types of structure more than in other people building other types of structure. We have certain products that have specific characteristics that we're interested in marketing and commercializing. And so we use Barbour ABI search functionality to be able to hone in on those projects, because at any time there's going to be several 100,000 construction projects in the UK. And frankly, we're not interested in all of them to the same extent as we're interested in others. So it really is the separating the wheat from the chaff, really. It's about, working out what your sales objectives are and then using the information that's available to make it easier to reach them. I mean, it's all about giving yourself an easy life, actually. And that's what the team are using it for. And each salesperson will have a slightly different target, a different area, which will give different opportunities. They might have a particular concrete plant that's set up to make a particular type of concrete or a floor screed or something. And they're using the information to be able to hone in on those projects in their area that are most likely to bring success in terms of those objectives. So yeah, it's a tool to make your life easy.
Let's move into a quick fire round. Couple of questions here, just really short answers off the top of your head. You ready for this?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Okay. How often do you use the platform?
Personally, I look at it certainly every week. But if I look at the average usage of our sales team members, on average, they're accessing it 2 to 3 times a week.
Great. Was it easy to pick up?
Very easy.
Generally, how long do you spend using it? I know you said in a previous answer, but roughly.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm one of the territory salespeople, I'm probably using it in chunks of maybe 30 minutes at a time.
Okay, cool. Did using the system actually meet expectation?
Yeah.
And how does Barbour ABI give you or the organisation a competitive advantage?
Well, as I said, I think knowledge is power. And I think Barbour ABI specifically, you could argue that any provider of this information is providing knowledge and therefore some power. I think that the benefit that Barbour gives is the ability to drill into that information, and not only digitally, but in other more humanistic type ways, if you like. So it's a really complete package of services that are on offer. Look, if you want to use the system on your phone and never speak to anybody at Barbour, that's fine, you can do that. But if you don't, then the capability to have that enhanced level of interaction is also there. So I think that's the benefit, is that it enables you to compete in all sorts of different ways.
What type of successes have you actually had using it?
Well, again, it's difficult to without breaking any commercial confidentiality. But for example, we've had some great success with some environmentally focused products into local authorities, where not only have we been able to identify the schemes that are likely to use these materials, but also easily identify the relevant people in the right departments to be able to focus our questions and our activity. So again, it's just, faced with a big market with lots of opportunities, it's how do you hone that down to something that's actually doable? If somebody says to me, Andy, there's 250,000 projects being built in the UK, I go, well, what am I supposed to do with that? If somebody says, actually, there are 11 like this one that you're interested in, then you go, okay, now I can work with that. So yeah,
yeah.
it's
It's human
the
nature
win
as
from
well,
the
isn't
gap,
it?
as I said. Yeah.
If you're given infinite choices, you'll never get anywhere. But if that field is narrowed, it gives you the focus, and you can be far more laser-like in your approach, which
I
is great.
think that's right. I think if you have infinite choice or too much information, people just revert to what they've always done. And if you want to change something, you need to give people a clear set of parameters within which to do that. And what I think the platform does is enable you to define those parameters and then work within them quite easily. So if you're interested in a particular type of project, below ground car parks, over a certain value in a certain town, then you can go and find those. Where if you didn't have access to that information in this filterable way, you'd spend a lot of time wasting your time.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's one thing in doing these success stories that I'm finding out. It's all about that time saving, and it sounds
It is.
silly because it's the platform that it is, but that seems to be the thing, the time saving from a client's perspective and from your perspective as well.
Well, it is. I think, another example where recently we picked up a piece of information about a market segment that, having asked around the company without doing anything wrong, we hadn't really spotted it. And somebody said something about a certain type of project of which there were quite a few on the books. I'm like, well, what is that? And within 20 minutes, we had really good information, and we're able to do something again that we can action. You can actually put somebody on it and say, okay, go and have a look at that and see what happens. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be successful in that segment. We've got every attribute to be able to be successful. We just didn't know about it, and now we do.
Final question, Andy, and it's a complete this sentence one. So here goes. Barbour ABI allows us to
Be more effective.
love it. Great soundbite. Andy, thank you so much for joining me today. Been an absolute pleasure
Thanks,
talking
Peter.
to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.